Welcome back to the Big Small Business Show, and we've been in conversation with Anneke and Daniel Malan, who run a phenomenal little business that's growing called Herbi Vōhr. I think such an important service to the vegan, the whole market that is looking for meat substitutes, and I think tapping into a global trend, and we need it. So time for me to give you things to think about, and Daniel, I know I'm going to hurt you by saying this, but you're going to have to get over that accounts thing, because for me the whole thing now is around cash flow management. And if you've got the right accountant, okay, you said that he's a good accountant, and if he's involved and helping you manage cash flow, then you shouldn't get yourself back into that position. You've got let's call it an old story that's actually governing this story. And that story could have been a completely different reasons and circumstances. But right now you're in a situation now where you're getting paid late and you're paying everything cash. So you always are going to have to manage this in those instances through margin. Okay. Now, if you margin and volume, your volumes are relatively low. And your margin, as you put out there earlier, is also relatively low. So you're in what we call a margin trap. You can't get out. You'll be in a washing machine forever and a day. This won't end unless you break the pattern. And you can only break the pattern by saying the past is the past. There is a new future that has dawned where we can manage accounts, and we must manage accounts. And we are conscientious about it, so we're not like, well, we don't pay our suppliers, okay, and build that up. Plus your free cash flow, which you can generate in two ways. Number one, I asked about the overdraft facility, by making sure that there is sufficient overdraft facility, or number two, through funding, which can come either as a loan or as equity. In other words, another partner in the business that's coming in as equity to fund the business. So those, you've got only these few things to actually use to get out of the margin trap. And then what's going to happen is that you'll find that if you look at the value of the business right now, right, my sense is that the both of you take modest salaries out of the business. But if you change your mindset and think, okay, I'm an investor in this business, I'm looking down on this business and asking myself, is Herbi Vōhr a good business to invest in? Because that's the way you should be looking at your own business. If you're doing that, you say, okay, it's a good business. Why? Because it makes sufficient margin, it's growing, and it's, let's call it cash flow positive, okay? But if it's not, then it's not a good investment. And if we had to now sell this, the new person coming in might not be as modest as the two of you are and wants to earn a market-related salary. Okay, so they're saying, well, if I'm coming in and putting a market-related salary, then the business makes zero or minus. So therefore, the margin is not a real, it's not, the model is not real. It's just based on your modesty. It's not commercial. Okay, because if you put a market-related salary into that business, it kills the business model. So therefore, we come right back to this thing, which is margin. Okay, and margin is a function of how you buy. Okay, so your inputs, volume, which it can come later, and you don't. I get the cap around the meat price and what you're trying to do, and then your labor cost in terms of your productivity. So if you can move the amount of units out, if there's sufficient demand, that is, and you can put 100 units out now in an hour or in a day, and you put 200 units. If you put 200 units out, then your labor cost is half. That means your margin is higher. So that's called productivity. So you have to go to your productivity to look for margin. So either margin comes from buying, productivity, in other words, your other variable costs are changing, or your price. Your price seems like you don't want to move your price. I don't know what your productivity management is like. I'm assuming it's okay. And then the other place I'm assuming you got very little leverage is how you buy. You know, you don't have enough volume to go and negotiate better pricing. Okay. So it comes now down to, so in those instances, then I would say there are two places to push on are your price, to pick up your price, and that means, and your product looks like a premium product. It's got that feel. So you might have to take the leap of moving the price up to make a bit more margin, especially to your point where if you go into the big retailers, they will. I wouldn't personally go there for a long time until your margin is right. I'd stay where you are and rather have these niche markets and go there. But as you're growing, you're going to hit another problem. At some point, you're going to need a manager because it's too much for the two of you, and there's too many people. They need to employ a manager. A manager is a non-productive individual in an organization. That's a cost. The manager needs a salary. They need a desk. They need, you know, they need. But it's not going from 100 a day to 250 a day to cover them. So that comes back to the model again, the business model. Is the business model real? And so the kind of hard questions, if you've got this accountant, is to go back to the accountant and say, we need to make sure that this model stands up to an investor, not necessarily a real investor, but a hypothetical investor, which is you. Otherwise, I come to the last question, which I should have asked you. Is this a hobby or is this a business? My guess is this is a business for you, but the model is a hobby model. And if you move it from a hobby model to a business model, there's longevity in the business. But for as long as this is a hobby model, in a business model, as in the business case can withstand a modest salary and this kind of size and this level of cash flow, then it's not ever going to get out of this margin trap which you're in. So I know I come with quite harsh commentary, but I want that to provoke you to think, perhaps you, Daniel, to say, okay, the past is the past. This is a new thing. I'm now going to get my great accountant to help me manage this from a cash flow. We get to a point where you can pick up the price a little bit, look at productivity, increase your overdraft, or get an investor, or get a loan, which I don't know if the business can handle that, and to ease you through this to get to the next level, and then push for volume. Then you start looking for volume, and then you go, the last piece is go back to the suppliers and go negotiate better input costs, and then your margin goes up even more. And now you have a business. And that is my very summarized 8 minutes of things to think about. I know I've given you lots to think about.
An eye-opener, may I say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I hope so. And I hope it was also a shifter. Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's it for today's show. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And always remember, if you think it, write it down and make it a reality.